Today let's solve problems about flags. Okay, let's multiply our fractions here. We already have two fractions, so right now we're going to check and see if we can crisscross simplify. Our 1 and our 5. Well, there's not a number that both of those can be divided by. So let's go to our 3 and 3. Those both can be divided by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So now I can multiply. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 5 is 5. Okay, now we're going to see if this can be simplified anymore. 1 and 5. There is nothing that both of those can be divided by, so that is our answer. That is simplified. Okay, our second one, 2 and 5. There is not a number that both of those can be divided by, so let's go to our 3 and our 3. 3 and 3 both can be divided by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So now I can multiply. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 5 is 5. There is not a number that both of those can be divided by, so that is simplified. Our next one, 5 and 5, both can be divided by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 3 and 3 can both be divided by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So now I can multiply. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. So on this one, my numerator is the same as my denominator. So that means I'm eating one piece of the cake and there are 1 total pieces. So I am eating 1 whole cake. So now that is simplified. Okay, on our next one, 2 and 5. There is not a number that both of those can be divided by. 3 and 13. There is not a number that both of those can be divided by, so I can go ahead and multiply. 2 times 13 is 26. 3 times 5 is 15. So I have an improper fraction because my numerator is bigger than my denominator. So I'm getting to eat 26 pieces and there's only 15 pieces in one cake. So I need to make that into a mixed number. So our instructions here for making an improper to a mixed number is I divide the numerator by the denominator. So I'm going to take my fraction, I'm going to flip it over on the side. Bottom dog goes outside the house. Top dog goes inside the house. Okay, goes into. Can 15 go into 2? No, because 2 is smaller than 15. Can 15 go into 26? Yes, one time. Multiply. 1 times 15, 15. Subtract. 1's house. 6 minus 5 is 1. 10's house. 2 minus 1 is 1. Bring down. Well, there's nothing to bring down, so I'm done. Okay. My whole number sits on top of the house. My leftovers are my denominator. So this is my new simplified mixed number. Okay, so on our picture here, Jada has a small replica of the flag of Thailand. It is 5 inches wide and 7.5 inches long. What is the area of the flag? Okay, remember area equals length times width. Okay, so here they are labeling the length on this side. So they are labeling the length as 7.5. They're labeling the width as the top and the bottom. So the width they are labeling as 5 inches. Okay? So what's the area of the flag for number 1? So let's work out number 1 over here. So we have length times width. Okay, so the easiest way for us to do this is to do our whole number times the whole number first. So we're going to do our 7 times our 5. And then we will have to do our half times our whole. So 7 times our 5 is 35. Then we do a half times a whole 5. So we need to put a 1 underneath there and multiply. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 1 is 2. Well, here we have it improper, so we need to change that before we can deal with our 35 over here. So remember, flip it over. Bottom dog goes outside the house. Top dog goes inside the house. Okay, first step goes into. How many times can 2 go into 5? Well, it can go 2 times. Multiply. 2 times 2, 4. Subtract. 5 minus 4 is 1. Bring down. There's nothing to bring down. So our new mixed number is whole number sits on top of the house. So we have 2. Leftovers goes over my denominator, which is the bottom dog. So now I can bring down what I haven't done, which is my 35 and my plus. So we're going to add our wholes together, which is 37 and a half. Okay, so our answer to number 1 is 37 and a half. So we're going to erase all of our work, so we have our work area there. Okay, let's do number 2. Each red stripe is 5/6 inches wide. What is the area of each red stripe? Okay, well, on this one, we know that the length of this red stripe is still 7.5. So our length is 7.5 of that red stripe, and it says that the width of the red stripe is 5/6. Now let's see if we can multiply. Okay, so we have a mixed number and a fraction, and remember we have to have 2 fractions in order to multiply. So we're going to multiply our 7 times our 2, that's 14, and add the 1 to it. So 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 is 15. That becomes our new numerator, and the 2 stays the same. Bring down what we haven't done, which is our times 5/6. Now we can multiply. 15 times our 5 gives us 75. 2 times 6 gives us 12. Here I have an improper fraction. So I'm going to take it, flip it over. Bottom dog goes outside the house. Top dog goes inside the house. Goes into. Can 12 go into 7? No. Can 12 go into 75? Yes. 6 times. 6 times 12, 72. Subtract. 1's house. 5 minus 2, 3. 7 minus 7 is 0, so I don't have to put it. Bring down. Well, there's nothing to bring down. So 75 over 12 gives me whole sits on top of the house. Leftovers is over my denominator or bottom dog. So 6 wholes and 3/12 is my answer to number 2. 6 3/12. Okay, let's do number 3. The blue stripe is 10/6 inches wide. What is the area of the blue stripe? Well, the blue stripe's length is still the same. It's still 7.5 length. And our Width, it says, is 10/6, so length times the width. Okay, and we already did this mixed number into an improper, so we figured that it was 7 times 2 gives us the 14, plus 1 is 15, which is our new numerator, and leave our denominator the same. Bring down what we haven't done. Now we can multiply. 15 times 10, we'll take that 0 off. 15 times 1 is 15. Now put the 0 back at the end. 2 times 6 is 12. Improper fraction here. Flip it over. Bottom dog goes outside the house. Top dog goes inside the house. 12 into 1, 1 is too small. 12 into 15, 1 time. Multiply. 1 times 12 is 12. Subtract. 5 minus 2, 3. 1 minus 1 is 0, so I don't have to put it. Bring down. Goes into, how many times can 12 go into 30? Well, it can go 2 times. 2 times 12, 24. Subtract. 4 cannot be taken away from 0, so I have to go over here to the tens house. Borrow a 10, so there's 2 tens left. Bring the 10 over to the ones house. So I have 10 in the ones house. 10 minus 4 is 6. So my answer is 12 whole sits on the top of the house. My leftover is my 6 over my bottom dog, which is my denominator. Okay, so let's look at this one. Kyron says the area of the red, white, and blue sections are equal. Do you agree? What might Kyron mean? Well, if we cut up the stripes and rearrange them, we can see that they each make up 1/3 of the flag. So, if we squish the 2 red stripes together, this one and this one, if we squish those together, they're the same as the blue stripe, because the red is a half, and then this red is a half, and so when you put those two together, they would line up like this, so they would make one whole blue stripe. The same is true as for the white stripe. So if we squish the white stripes together, they would make a blue stripe. So that would be the red, it would be squished together, that would be 1/3. The white squished together, that would be 1/3. And then the blue would make up 1/3. So 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 gives me 3/3, which is one whole flag. So that's what my Kara mean. She means that 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 equals 3/3, which is one whole flag. So they're all equal. The flag is 5 inches wide and 7.5 inches long. The white stripe is 5/6 inches wide. The blue stripe is 10/6 inches wide. What information in the problem confirms what Kyron said? Well, the blue stripe is twice as wide as the white stripe. So the blue stripe, if I double my white stripe, 5 doubled would be my 10. So that would be double the size of my white stripe. So this would be what it would look like as an equation. 5/6 is the white stripe, and I'm going to double it, which means multiply it by the 2. I stick a 1 underneath that. That's going to give me 10. And then the 6 times 1 gives me the 6. So that is the measurement of the blue stripe. So in this unit, we learned to multiply fractions. First, we learned to multiply unit fractions. For example, we learned that 1/3 times 1/4 is 1/12. Another way to show this relationship is with this diagram. In diagram A, we can see that 1/3, that's one piece out of 3 pieces of a square that has of a 1/4 column. So we have 1/3, one piece out of 3 pieces of my column of 1/4 gives me a shaded area of the total square of 1/12. So there are 12 total pieces in the cake and one piece is shaded that I get. Next, we learned to multiply unit fractions by non-unit fractions. For example, we learned that 2/5 times 1/3 is 2/15. In this diagram B, we can see that 2/5 of 1/3 of the square is the same as 2/15. So I have 1/2 out of 2/5 out of one of the 3 columns. So 2/5 of means multiply of 1/3 equals 2 times 1 is 2, 5 times 3 is 15. So I have 2 pieces shaded out of a total 15 pieces in my cake. In diagram C, we can see that 4/6 of 5/7 equals 20/42. So we can multiply the numerators 4 times 5 to find the numerator in the product. We can multiply the denominator 6 times 7 to find the denominator in the product. So we can represent this relationship in the equation right here. 4 times 5 is 20. 6 times 7 is 42. So diagram C represents a 4 by 5 array. So we've got 1, 2, 3, a 4 by 5 array. That's the shaded. This should say 6, not 5, because it's inside a larger 6 by 7 array. So that is where they get this. 4 times 5 is 20. 6 times 7 is 42. So there's 20 pieces shaded, or you get to eat the shaded 20 pieces out of a total 42 pieces.